If you need assistance with federal agencies, please contact our Bowling Green office or visit our website.
As I've been traveling around Kentucky and traveling around the country, it really has dawned on me, and several authors are bringing this home as well, that there's never, ever been a better time to be alive. And people say, well, that's hyperbole, you're making that up, you're just saying that because of partisan politics. No, it really has something to do with ideas and politics, but really just has to do with the amazing progress we've made. And people, we just don't sometimes realize that we tend to be, and actually as we get richer as a country, we have more idle time to think about the things we're unhappy about and why we don't like each other. But in reality, it's just amazing how well we're doing. There's a guy named Steven Pinker who wrote a book called Enlightenment Now. There's another group called humanprogress.org, and they just look at statistics of how well we're doing. In the early 1800s, 90% of people lived in extreme poverty. That's less than $2 a day. There was no obesity. The only obesity was Henry VIII. I mean, you had to be a king or a queen to have more than enough food. Everybody else didn't have enough food. 90% of people lived in extreme poverty. You get to, when I was born in the early 1960s, you go from 90% extreme poverty for the world, for the entire world, to about a third. And then from when I was born in the early 1960s today, a third living in extreme poverty, we're less than 10%. Almost none of those people live in the United States, by the way. $2 a day is not very much money. It's around the world. But 137,000 people every day are coming up out of extreme poverty. The point is that we're doing very well in our country. Unemployment's like 3%. The economy is booming. Hopefully people are buying a lot of cars. But I mean, it's better. It's a good time right now. So once we can agree on that, actually we don't all agree on that. There's a guy named Bernie who says that the economic pie is shrinking and that if you get more of it, I'm getting less of it, and the richer you get, the poorer I get. It's just absolutely not true. All of the statistics contradict that fact. So we have to get the facts straight before we can have an argument about who we want to run the country, what kind of ideas. But the economic pie is going up. Our country over the last 200 years have doubled our economy 8 times. The curve of the world's GDP goes along the x-axis for several thousand years since the beginning of recorded time, gets to 1800, it starts curving up, and it's a hockey stick going up like this. But the next question is why? Why is our economy thriving? Why is the world economy thriving? To me, it's a very simple answer. It's mostly allowing people to be free to trade their services or their goods with very little interruption from government, and also allow them to trade them across country lines. So you have to have open trade, and you have to have a government that doesn't get in the way too much of the economy. And we've largely have that. I mean, for the last 200 years, for the most part, worldwide, we've gotten an increase in capitalism and an increase in trade. Now, it's not perfect. I mean, the president's unhappy with China, is unhappy with them stealing our intellectual property, not playing fair, etc. And all that's true. But then you counterbalance that with trade, and actually trade is such a good thing that some of us are like, the trade war may not be a good idea. If we can get to a point where we get an agreement, it might be good. The big agreement we have now is replacing NAFTA with something called, USMC or whatever, and it's better than no agreement, but it's probably not going to be quite as good as NAFTA. Car prices will probably go up a little bit because we're mandating more of the car be made in North America. You can say, well, that keeps jobs here, but people are going to pay more, so they'll have less money to spend on something else. But it's better to have agreements than not. Right now, the uncertainty is with China. You talk to our farmers, they're not happy about the trade war. You talk to most of the people who make the cars, they're not happy. Most of the automobile parts people aren't happy. They want trade. Bourbon people aren't happy. People selling, things made of aluminum and steel aren't happy. It ripples through the economy. And I'll give you one example, and then we'll do a couple other things and then do some questions. I was over in Bonneville the other day, and this woman and her husband started a business, and they make aluminum trays you put on the grill to put fish on, and then steel ones that you put like vegetables or other things when you're cooking on your grill so it doesn't stick to the grill. They're not very expensive, a couple dollars a piece, I think, but we put the tariffs on the aluminum steel so that her input price went up just a little bit. She had to raise her price for whoever, Dollar General or Walmart or whatever, and guess who's out competing her? China's coming in with a finished product, and so we're supposed to put these tariffs on to punish China. It's actually punishing her business in Bonneville, so she doesn't want to see the tariffs because she's now being undercut. Another example is this was a big nail manufacturer, steel nails made out of steel in Missouri, and he employed 100 people. Well, his input price for steel went up just a little bit. He had to raise his retail cost, and guess what? China's bringing an end product in of nails and out competing him. So trade's a complicated thing, but by and large, trade is just an extension of the division of labor. We got richer here because Adam Smith said we had sort of individualized. Instead of me having to grow my food, the farmer's much better at growing food. I'm better at taking a cataract out, so he's no longer taking it out with a fork. We're a little more sophisticated, but we divide up labor, but we do it by countries too. So like we don't make flip-flops anymore, but they make them in Vietnam. So we can argue it's good or bad, but ultimately as you divide up labor and specialize and countries specialize, everybody tends to get richer. We tend to specialize in something else here. With regard to things that you might be interested that have relationship to the military, there are two bills that I wanted to mention. One is a bill for the widows of people who died in combat, and there's been a quirk in the payment thing where they get less. We're trying to get that fixed, and I'm a co-sponsor of the bill to fix that. And we actually just met with a woman whose husband died 15 years ago in Bowling Green just recently, and she was telling me about it as well. And then another bill, those of you who've heard me before, I think we've been too long in Afghanistan. I think the mission's completed. You can't find a general who'll tell you what the mission is any longer. And bin Laden's dead. The people who attacked us are all dead or gone. We're now fighting with the kids of the people who may have attacked us, And it's very expensive. It's about $51 billion a year. I have a bill to end it, get rid of the 2001 authorization, and give everybody who served over there a $2,500 bonus, and it still saves $40 billion or something. There's a one-time cost to give everybody a bonus, but then we quit spending the $51 billion. Now, the countervailing argument is people say if we leave, terrorism will erupt. Well, we're there, and there are terrorists everywhere anyway. They're fighting each other. Taliban controls a third of the country with us there. If we leave, will it be worse? I think it's bad either way. And I think it's a little bit of a last century idea that we have to occupy land to prevent terrorism. If that's true, we're going to have to occupy all of Africa, all of Libya, all of the Sudan, all of Mali, all these places. There's terrorists everywhere. And so really I think we have to be able to defend ourselves. We have to have a good intelligence, and there are times we have to fight them there. But I think occupying all the land really isn't practical economically, and it's an enormous amount of money. And everybody complains at home, well, we can't build roads, we can't replace bridges. Well, that's because we're building roads in Afghanistan and bridges in Afghanistan. I'll give you two examples of how your money's being spent over there. We built a luxury hotel in downtown Kabul across from the embassy. Guy got $90 million for it, and he then left the country. And he built a shell of a building that was never completed. It's now a danger to have snipers crawl up in this building and shoot down our embassy, so our soldiers have to risk life and limb by patrolling this stupid hotel, and the next step is we're going to tear it down because it's a danger. But you paid $90 million for that. They built a natural gas station in Afghanistan. They want to reduce the carbon footprint of Afghanistan. Now, who allowed all the crazy green stuff to get in the military, I don't know, but we're spending a lot of money on stuff. I thought we were supposed to kill the enemy, not reduce their carbon footprint. So this was supposed to cost $500,000. It ended up costing $45 million. It doesn't serve up gas, it serves up natural gas for cars. Well, if you've ever been to Afghanistan, most people don't have cars. The average income's like $800 a year. Those who do have a car, I promise you it doesn't run on natural gas. So then nobody could use this because they didn't have the car. So we bought them cars, but then they had no money. We gave them credit cards. So we got them natural gas burning cars. We gave them credit cards. And so my staff was over there looking at some of the money we're wasting. They said, well, we can't take you there because we'd have to have 2 gunships with 30 people on there to take you to see the gas station. We don't want to lose soldiers so you can see a gas station. It's like, well, why the hell did we build it? If it's so unsafe we can't even go there, we don't even know it still exists. We built highways, they can't maintain the highways. So we have to go back and give them more money to maintain their highways. It's not going to be pretty if we leave, but it's not pretty with us there. And I have 3 nephews in the military. I really just, it's my opinion, maybe everybody doesn't agree, but I'm not really for sending my nephews or anybody's nephews over there if the mission's not real clear who the enemy is or what we're doing anymore there. And I think at the very least the country ought to debate it. We voted in 2001. Many of the people who voted on it, I would have voted for it in 2001. But it's a long time, and we need to, I think, reassess what the mission is there. I I continue to believe that we shouldn't spend money we don't have, whether it's for a good cause or a bad cause. And so we're now running trillion-dollar deficits, and people say, whose fault is it, Republicans or Democrats? I say yes. It's both parties. Both parties want to spend money for different reasons, but they get together and people say, well, there's not enough compromise. Well, it's the opposite. There's actually too much compromise. The right wants more military money and the left wants more welfare money, and they both get it. And everything goes up. And I'm for a strong military, but even the military has to be looked at judiciously, and we can't just spend money we don't have. I think ultimately Admiral Mullins was right that a great threat to our national security is our debt. You know, if we get to the point where we destroy our currency or destroy our country, paying for things, even though we say we want a strong military, we can't just keep borrowing money from China to do it. You know, we have to at some point say we're going to get it out of our own savings. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Need assistance with federal agencies, please contact our Bowling Green office or visit our website.